Hi, thank you for joining me today. And today I wanted to use the Simple Stories Wildflower collection. And I also wanted to challenge myself to use pattern paper for my background, because if you've been watching me for a while, you know this is something that I really do struggle with. So I chose the most neutral pattern paper that I could find, this beautiful pinstripe. And now I'm going to add some mixed media onto the background. So this is an old Vicky Boutin stencil with sun rays all over it. So I'm using the Inklings Sunflower from Shimmers Paints. And I'm just creating a strip of these sunbursts across the page, and then I'll also have some going up the page a little bit as well. The photo is of myself and my daughter just while we were waiting to board the plane back from Northern Ireland last week. But it was quite a cute photo, so I thought it would be nice to document that. So I won't make you watch all of this, I'm just going over, and there they are completed. And you can see it's bled a little bit underneath the stencil. So I'm just going to add some splatters to make it look a little bit more rustic. And then I'm going to come in with the same stencil and my grey pen, just a fine nibbed grey pen, and use the stencil to draw around the edges of those sunbursts, just to give them a little bit more definition, because where the paint's bled, it doesn't look quite so attractive. So here I am, just coming in, like I say, just drawing around each of those shapes, just around the edges. The stencil guides the pen, so it's very quick and easy to do. And it just gives that definition that I'm after on each of these sunbursts. And I probably should have worked out the positioning of my photo beforehand so that I didn't have to do quite so much work, but I don't know why I didn't this time. It's something that I normally do, but didn't this time. But anyway, they're all done. And now I'm going to start working on the photo and matting the photo. So I didn't really have much of a plan when I came in with this. I knew I wanted to have this sunburst as my background, and I knew I wanted to use these papers. So I'm just coming in with the 6x8 paper pad here and I'm focusing on the yellows and blues from the collection because of the colours in the photo, really. You've got the beautiful blue sky, and I've chosen the yellow for the suns on the background, so that's what I'm doing. So just trimming down the 8-inch side of the paper, like I say, deciding on the blues and yellows and creating some strips, just adding a little bit of texture by curling them up slightly on either side. And then the photo will sit on top of them. Once I get these cut, I realise that they're a little bit too long, so I do just gather them up as one part and snip off the ends, because it's quite a vintagey style look. Not vintagey, but I can't think of what I'm trying to say. Because it's a more messy mixed media type look, it doesn't matter that it's not perfectly straight and that the edges aren't perfectly straight when I cut them. So just gathering them all up as a bunch like this and snipping off the excess works absolutely fine. Grungy look is probably the word that I'm looking for. I seem to have lost all my words at the moment. So now just placing these, I'm not going to keep them straight and they're going to be offset against one another. I like that messy look. I don't like things to be too perfect. So just going through, adding them all down. And then once these are down, I think I cut a couple more strips. There wasn't quite enough when I brought the photo in. I wasn't quite happy with the depth that I've got there. You can see with that last one there, I wanted a few more. So just sticking these down and then I'll come in with a couple more. And just using my wet glue and just straight down the middle so that those edges curl up as well. So here I am just looking for one more piece that I can cut. And this one works really nicely because it's got yellow on one side and I think it was a blue on the other, was it? Oh, a grey on the other, which works beautifully. So again, just curling them up. Completely forgot that I cut the end off the other pieces, so I glue this one down and then realise. So just have to snip the edge off that, or the end off that, and then this one I snip the end off as well. And you can see I did that at a slight angle. As I say, I quite like that grungy look, so it really doesn't matter to me at all. And then just moving it a little bit so that I still had some of those suns at the top showing. And then coming in with my 25mm Sticks 2 foam pads that we sell at Hey Little Magpie. These just help the photo to stand proud on top of those curled papers there. So now the photo's down, I want to work on my title. It's just a photo of me and my girl. There's nothing special about it really, other than it being a really nice photo. So I just thought this word hello would work nicely. So just chopping that off, and then I can put that down. And because the letters are all separate on that sticker sheet, I can actually offset them against one another, which works nicely because the papers are a little bit up and down as well. And now I'm going through the 12 by 12 sticker sheet and just choosing some nice sentiment phrases on there, things like together and this is me. And that this is me one, I think that's what it says. I'm struggling to read it on my phone, but I'm popping that up onto some foam tape. These are the 6 by 12 foam tabs on a roll from Sticks 2, just so that it stands at the same level as the photo. There. Now using this beautiful scallop border underneath the photo, and I'm not going to use it all, so I'll trim it off and keep the other piece. So that's just going back on the sticker sheet for another day. And then I decide that I want to add a torn strip underneath that, just to bring the blue in a little bit more. So I tear this off and then realise that I need to lift that scallop back up. So I peel it back up off the layout, and then I use some powder that I just keep in my drawer, a little pot of powder. This is face powder, but talcum powder, anything like that would work. And just use a paintbrush to paint that on to get rid of the stickiness on those scallops, just so that I can keep them curled up a little bit and fit this paper nicely underneath. I just felt it was a bit too deep at that end, so just tearing the excess off, and then using my Tim Holtz edge distresser just to distress those edges a bit more and get them curled up, just bringing in more texture. So roughly gluing that down with my wet glue, keeping the edges free so they can be curled like that. And now I'm going to work on that title. And it is a lot of yellow on yellow, but in real life you do see it quite clearly. And it does work beautifully with this photo, as I say. So you can see I'm just going up and down with the letters, keeping them straight on the page. And these lines on the pattern paper background work really nicely for that. I've not had to use my T-square ruler at all on this one, which is nice. And there we go. So that's the title. And now I'm bringing in one of the new Hey Little Magpie background Flair, and just tucking that under. That's the pluses, Wildflower Plus it's called. And I've used some of the wax twine in yellow just to create a bit of a bird's nest underneath that Flair, and I really like how that looks. So now coming into the sticker book from this collection and just having a look through to see what I can find. And I find another word to put in. Just deciding where to position that. It says beautiful. And I think it is a beautiful photo. I don't know if you're supposed to say that about yourself, and I don't normally like photos of me, but I did quite like this one. And then this little heart, I think it's a heart, is it? Yeah. And then I find a little tab to put at the top of the page. And of course, stick it down, and then afterwards find lots of other things that I want to layer it on top of. I really wasn't very well planned here or organised. You can see I spent some time the other day stamping up some more labels from my LE Studio label stamp, so that my tub is full again and I can use those. So this one's in a baby pink that works very nicely with this collection, and I just snipped the top off because I wanted to nest it right underneath, so it was easier just to cut a bit off. And now using one of the speckled egg blue behind this label, and I do add a few more bits as well. So I've got that one, and then I find a circle to put behind it. I think that's fossilised amber, the colour that I used. These are all stamped in Tim Holtz Distress Oxides. So gluing that down, and I'll still find more to put behind. So another one. Oh, this is the speckled egg, so I wonder if that was bundled sage, because I think I've got two different colours up there. It's so hard to see on my phone screen, sorry about that. But if they're both blue, then they're speckled egg. If one's green, then it's bundled sage. So now I'm just fiddling with these little offcuts that I've got from the strips that I'd layered under the photo, and just find a couple to add to this collection of labels and things here. Cluster, I suppose you call it, don't you? It's not really an embellishment cluster, but a collection of papers and labels. So just getting that tucked under there, and then I shall rough up the edges a little bit once they're glued down, just so that it matches the other pieces of paper underneath the photo there. So just using my fingernails just to rough that up a tiny bit. And there you have it. So I'm happy with that bit. So now I'm going to add the date onto a scrap piece of white paper card and just cut that out and add it to the tab at the top. So just trimming off the excess. I'd stamped it slightly wonky, so I was just making it straight again and then cutting off the excess bits from either end. And as I say, that just goes nicely up there on that tab. Now I'm going to add a tiny bit of journaling here, just saying where we were and what we were doing. And then I've gone into my deep dive old stash again. These are some enamel dot shapes that I had in there. So I just pulled out a blue one and a yellow one. And then I've got these lovely puffy hearts. I forget where they're from now, I've had them for ages. So just adding one of those down there. And then these gorgeous Lily Bee stickers. And I find a couple of word phrases. One here, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine, which I love. So that goes under there. And then I find another little flag that goes at the top of the page here. And then another phrase that goes in the bottom left-hand cluster. And that's bringing the blue down to the bottom there, which I was happy with. Now, coming in with the 12 by 12 sticker sheet again, I found a little heart to put in that cluster at the bottom right of the photo, and then this leaf vine in that bottom left-hand cluster, and another little heart. And then I'm going into an old Heidi Swap sticker book to add some gold chevrons. Trying to decide where to position them, but I decide that they're better lower down here nearer the title. I think if they were too high up, they would have just looked like they were floating in space, so I preferred having them down here. Think about adding another one, but decide against that. And then, of course, decide to move it out. So that's those added. Just checking that I'm happy. And now bringing in another word phrase. And back to the sticker book. I decide that I want to use one of the circles in here to create using my naked epoxy Flair to create an epoxy Flair badge. So I'm just looking through to check there was nothing else, and then I come to the circles. So choose which one I want, and then I'm just going to stick it onto some pattern paper because the epoxy Flair are larger than the circles in this book. So I just need to have a border, and rather than using a white border, I thought it might be nice to use one of the pattern papers. So here I am with the epoxy Flair. I'm just sticking that on top and then popping it down onto the page. And I really love how that cluster's working out there. So just moving that heart over slightly. And now coming in with some gold Nouveau crystal drops, just to add the final finishing touches, or what I think are the final finishing touches. In actual fact, after I finished recording, I added a couple more of the sunbursts with the stencil underneath the photo, and then I added some gold sequins. Sorry I didn't record that. It was just a spur of the moment thing. I realised that I wasn't quite happy with the finished product. So you'll see that in the close-ups right at the very end. But other than that, that's the end of the layout for the day. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall see you again on Tuesday for the next one. Thanks again. Bye.